right, beautiful people. Welcome back to another episode of Life After Infidelity, a podcast designed to help you remove the shame of your decision of whether you choose to stay or go. And if you have been tuning in and you were tuning in last week, I don't know if I'm gonna put this up the next day and try to be like Latarius, or if I'm gonna put it up a week later. We go see. I don't know. Y'all just keep rocking with me. But Jade and I were having a conversation, and we titled it "Get My Lick Back," and woo, we've covered a lot. It's been good, friend. This conversation has been really, really good. And I'm just going to dive back into it because we left off where you were talking about how, you made the decision, you had this dramatic exit of where you left, and you had the opportunity to have two conversations post your departure of like actually leaving away from the marriage or making the decision that you were going to, move on. And you were saying that your ex-husband was saying that he wanted to come back. And you were basically like, you released him and you didn't love him anymore. We got to talk about that. I say that because so many women don't have the strength to do that. So what was your strength behind standing strong? And at this point in time, you're acknowledging that you deserve more. And you did give him chance after chance because you said that you caught him several times cheating on you. Right. And it seems like maybe this time he was growing, but what made you actually decide to choose you and say, no, I'm done?
Marriage. I think it's the counseling during the marriage.
The counseling?
Yes.
Okay.
Because in that moment, I'm told in the counseling sessions, when he says things to you, he's talking about himself. Says, don't internalize it. So if he says something negative to you, you're probably looking to, who are you? You're not talking to me. Mm-hmm. So one of the times I got home from the counseling session and I had on a hat that says Queen. And I remember him saying, whose queen are you? So things like that would be said. And I mean, I did a lot of introspection in myself. I would not respond. Okay. And I did a lot of introspection. I did the time to work on myself. So at that point, I was happy. We spoke about this with the session that you did with me in terms of it's best that people tell you their truth, whether it's hurt or not. Mm-hmm. They did. Mm-hmm. So when he did say to me, you loved me more than I loved you, I was cool. I already knew it. Why? Because I knew the reasons he was with me. He was with me because he thought that I will propel his music to where it needed to be. So it was a parasitic relationship. So he needed me for something, and I also needed him to be a husband. I wanted it to be a husband and love me. Yeah. So in that moment, what he wanted from me, I was no longer giving it to him. So he started looking elsewhere, which you also touched on. Mm-hmm. And for me, I needed him to be a husband, but he didn't know what that was. He didn't know what it looked like. Mm-hmm. So at that point for me, I know this no longer serves me. Mm-hmm. It no longer serves me anymore. Mm-hmm. And I can either choose to continue staying in something that no longer serves me because I love him, mm-hmm. or I can free ourselves and go. And I think because of that, I was no longer angry at him for even what he did.
Yeah.
I wasn't angry at him, and even things that he said to me, words he called me, I was no longer angry at him for that.
Yeah.
Because hey, you didn't know what you want, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. You messed me up during that time, mm-hmm. but because you messed me up, I am now a better person.
Yeah. That's so good what you're saying, because I just finished a podcast recording episode, and the gentleman talked about, his name is Dr. Lee. He's a psychiatrist, and he was talking about sometimes we get in relationships, and I'm going to say he was more so talking about women in relation to men, and he was like, sometimes what's so hard for men in relationships is that women tend to get into relationships for what it means and not seeing that person for who they are. And that's kind of like what you said, like him getting into this marriage with you, what it meant it meant that it could possibly, launch his music
Right.
career and things like that. And I think that that's the dangers of when we get into relationships because of what it could potentially mean, and forgetting the person and who that person is. Then it
Right.
kind of makes it a little easier for us to then go and betray them. And I want to say do the ultimate betrayal in a relationship, and I think that this is why it is so important for people to go through healing when they have went through acts of infidelity, because what you were saying, because you went through counseling, you were strong enough to actually know like what you wanted, what you desired, and how to go into it with the help of your counselor and not go into it weak, because they were able to help you acknowledge or notice some of the things to pay attention to that in our vulnerabilities without professional help we just don't know.
Right.
And that's something that I was talking to the lady who called me today when she was telling me that, she found out. I'm just saying her daughter-in-law for context of
Right.
conversation to make it sound sense, but she was like when her daughter-in-law called her to tell her that her son was cheating on her, and I was like, it's really important that we we help one another, because if
Right.
I would have known what I knew, if I would have had somebody to help coach me, I wouldn't have stayed in that marriage for 5 years knowing that he was cheating on me, and I was finding out about a different woman every 6 months for 5 whole years. And I think that it's beautiful what you're saying is like, I think that we get cheated on so often, and we somewhat, and I'm doing parentheses when I say somewhat, are appear to be healed from it, but we're not. You know,
No, we're not.
we're not at all. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that, because it is really important, and that's one of the things that I'm wanting to share with people is that if you have been cheated on, that is means for you to actually go find someone to talk to,
Yeah.
whether it's a coach or a therapist. And I mean like a professional. It
Yeah.
is worth going to get professional help, because what happens is that when you don't heal properly, even though you might think you have, there's still adverse effects of that partner's hurt that could potentially spill into the next relationship if you didn't get the chance to heal. And I want you to speak to women who, you were lucky. You were one of the lucky ones who had the opportunity to get closure. I didn't. And but we all, closure is a very important piece of moving on, right? And I think that a lot of the times why we keep that open is because we don't have that closure. And so we have all of these what ifs and things like that. And I was actually listening to another podcast from Dear Future Wifey, and his guest was talking about how our mind works. And our mind, it needs to have closure in situations. And if it doesn't have closure in situations, then our mind starts to create the closure. Like, okay, well, and so that's where the assumptions come in. And so, what would you say to women who are not blessed with that opportunity to have closure? Like, what do they need to do?
So for women who don't have the opportunity to get closure, I would counseling. I'm going to send you to counseling also,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because in counseling there is there is a system that's also used where we talk to the chair, the empty chair technique. Talk to the
Yeah. Yeah.
chair
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
imagine the person is there, and you
Yep.
say everything that you need to say to that person,
Yep.
whether the person is there or not. I mean, some people would want to see the person there physically, but if that can't happen,
Mm-hmm.
use empty chair technique. Imagine the person is there and let out whatever it is that you have to let out to them. My go-to though is not to do so angrily. My
Okay.
go-to is do so, talk to yourself, deal with yourself first, so that when you're able to speak to that person, whether empty chair or the
That's
person
good.
themselves, you don't come off as toxic.
Yeah.
You don't come off as if you're so angry and you're so bitter.
Yeah.
Do it so in love. So when you talk to that person, you still talk to that person with the utmost respect. You
Yeah.
disrespect me, but I'm going to come and respect you, and
Yeah.
in how I speak to you, my approach to you.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, we don't like to be the bigger person, but it's how it is that we relay our message that shows whether we have moved on, or we can get over,
Ooh.
or we have forgiven or not. Because if it is that I come to you and I'm angry and lashing out, the person not going to hear you, because this is the same person and this is why I cheated on the person, because look at how you're presenting this to me. But if it is that you go in a different approach, they take it differently. and know there's respect, and know even if it is that you still don't talk to each other, you can say you did it with a lot of respect, and there's growth for that. Because for me, after that closure that I had, I probably didn't want it, but I was able to serve him in terms of going to a show. I normally do a show overseas. So I did a show and he was one of the guest artists, and I was able to, I served him his food. I booked him his hotel. I went to make sure he was okay as an artist, and there was no problem. I went, did interviews with him, acted normal. I moved on, and I was not affected at all by it because I
Oh
was able
yeah.
to.
Look, I'm finna go ahead and tell you right now, your healing is a lot better than mine because I feel, honey, I believe I'm healed. But listen, what I'm not finna do, you will not Brianna, not Brianna Latrice. No, I'm not. Yeah, God bless you, honey, because you healed. I'm just healed, but you double healed.
Listen, it takes a lot. It takes a lot. And I mean, after he came in, he wasn't feeling well. I had medication. I gave him medication,
All
and I
right,
was like, you know
stop.
what? That's it. But that's it. I mean, I really don't have anything else to do. I mean, it kept on going where he said, he thought that okay, you're being nice, so let me come and see what can happen. And I was like, no, that's where it is. I'm a nice person to you because I respect you as a human being. But that's it. I'm not taking care of you. I'm not your woman anymore.
Yeah. Ooh.
That's where it is. But if I have a job to do with you, I'm gonna do the job and I'm gonna do it effectively. Yes, I am.
You got me over here humming because I'm like, woo. I'm thinking, listen, ladies, if you want to get healed, then come see me as a coach. But if you want to get healed, I'm going to go ahead and refer you to Jade because I might not get you some of them practices that Jade over there using, but no, but
Oh,
I think, ooh, something you said really good. You said you can tell that you're healed, and I'm jacking it up or using my own words, but you can tell that you're healed by how you go back and have that conversation with the person.
yes,
And I love that because um just going back to this conversation today because it just happened. That's one of the things that I advised this woman to go back and tell her daughter-in-law is don't have a conversation with him right now because when you're emotional and when you're vulnerable, we make bad decisions. We make
bad
you know what I'm
decision.
saying? We make bad choices and our heart is so hurt and it's so open that anything that they say, we take it as them actually being remorseful and it's not. It's I'm not even gonna say remorseful. We just take anything that they say, whether it's them blaming it on us. We take because our heart is open.
Yeah.
Whatever they're going to give us, if it's from a place of like toxicity, we're taking that into our heart and we're multiplying our already insecurities behind what we've just found out. And so I like that you say that. Like, we really need to sit and process and heal ourselves and get clarity on what it is that we want to do before we can even go back to them and say anything, or
Yes.
if we don't have the opportunity to go back to them, look at this chair and yell at this chair. Like, I
Yes.
really and I'm just trying to stress that to people because like that is a very important piece of healing is actually getting it out is what I want to talk
Yes.
about because was actually on a coaching call with a lady last week and we were talking about like what is the hurt and the anger. Well, I think she was frustrated because she's like, I just feel like I'm not getting past this
Right.
hump in my life. And I
Right.
said, well, when you think about this stuff, anyways, we went down this whole thing and we literally did that because I was like, what are you mad about? And she was so guarded, and she even said that. She said, I don't know why I'm so guarded. She said that after because I said, tell me all the stuff you mad at him about. And then she just was there crying. And I said, you know what? I'll do it for you. And I literally listed out everything that she's told me from our very first coaching call. And afterwards, she just started crying and she was like, that's so powerful. I said, the reason why it's so hard for you to get over this hump is because you haven't voiced it. Because,
Yeah.
yeah, he's not here, but there's still a way for you to get it out
Yeah.
because we've got to get that out of our spirit, get that out of our heart so that we can move on. But you had the, like I said, you were blessed to have that opportunity to get it out to him. And you told him that, basically you're releasing him from anything. And so then you moved on, you continued with your healing. And then what did that journey look like for you in terms of like dating again? When did you decide or know you were ready to date again? And how did you find the amazing husband that you have now?
So even before that, before I answer that, I'm
Okay.
gonna say to what you had said previously, in terms of us being angry
Uh-huh.
and
Mm-hmm.
venting. Sometimes I think we're also so angry at them because we're angry at ourselves.
Yep. Yep. We've already talked about
And
that, but yes, ma'am. Talk about
we're
it.
angry at ourselves because I'm angry at myself for what I did, but I don't want to say it
Mm-hmm.
because it means I'm gonna have to do introspection. How do I
Yep.
introspect and say, I'm a problem too because I sat down and knew you were doing this
Yep.
and I allowed myself to sit down. I allow myself to be so naive. I
Yep.
allow myself to. So sometimes we're angry at ourselves, but hey, we have all been fools for love,
Yeah.
one way or the other,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that something is wrong with us. It's okay. It means that we're human.
Mm-hmm.
So going back now to the question that you asked, as I said, I decided I was not gonna date. I was not gonna do anything. It's this, and can I tell you, it's the same concert that I was helping to serve my husband as an artist there that I met my husband.
Oh wow. I love that. I love those full circle stories.
Right. So I
Wow.
mean, when we met, we're just a working relationship because we're working together at the venue.
Yeah.
And that was what it was supposed to be. And he came to me afterwards, hey, I really like working there. I like how you do things, etc. So I said, hey, I like working with you too. Let's do this
Mm-hmm.
in terms of if there's any more concerts that we're working together, that let's do it. I
Yeah.
mean, we know each other now in terms of doing that.
Yeah.
So that was where the basis was.
Mm-hmm.
And then coming back to Jamaica, he just continued talking to me, and I was like, hey, I'm not doing this. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do this right
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
because I'm just coming out of. But he was patient and he waited, and he
Wow.
was also coming from a divorce himself.
Oh.
So both of us were working together. He was doing his work, I was doing my work because I was still in counseling even afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was doing my work, etc. But I mean, afterwards, I mean, there were reservations. I'm not gonna say I just went in and I was full force in love. There was
Mm-hmm.
a lot of reservations
Mm-hmm.
because I did not want what happened before to happen again.
Yeah.
And in Jamaica, people call it Yamed situation,
Mm.
where it is that you don't want somebody again to take you for a fool
Yeah. And
because
it's
of
called
anything.
what? What's the word?
Yam head.
Yum head.
Yam head.
Okay. All
It
right.
means it means you have somebody just taking you for a fool over and over again. And I didn't want that. So I wanted
Mm-hmm.
clarity
Mm-hmm.
as to where we were,
Mm-hmm.
what is happening, what exactly it is that we want.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to say, listen, even though this is me now, to once I might change who I want to be, what I want to be. Because we're evolving.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so we're no longer going to be the same. So what I may want now, I'm not going to want 2 months from now. So
Yeah.
there's also understanding that aspect. And I'm very clear as to this is what I want,
Mm-hmm.
this is what I don't want.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see as sex?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What does it mean to you? What
Mm-hmm.
does cheating mean to you? Let's talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
Don't. I may do something and you don't like it and you say it's cheating and I don't see it as cheating. What's
Mm-hmm.
happening?
Mm-hmm.
Or everything I see may trigger me. So what he did is that if it is that he was going hiking and a female was gonna be there, he let me know which female is gonna be.
Oh. Yeah.
And same vice versa. If I'm going out, I'll let
Yeah.
you know I'm going out with this person so that there is vulnerability and there's accountability.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
were living in different states at the time. Well, I was living in Jamaica, he was living overseas.
Wow.
So we did that. And then I mean, it just evolved to get it married and having a child. And I'm not gonna say it's easy still because there are times,
Yeah.
I mean, I believe that I'm healed, but there are times I see something and it's almost
Yeah.
replica of what happened, not necessarily cheating,
Yeah.
but how a man behaves. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
be with myself and I say, this may look alike, but it's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's continuous. I'm not gonna say, "Oh, I'm over everything and I'm done," but it's okay. And
Yeah.
I mean, I can now talk about my ex without being angry, and that's a good part for me.
Yeah. Well, and even laughter, I think, because we've
Yes.
laughed throughout this podcast, and and I think that that's like another way of showing that we're healed. And I want to ask you this last question before we close out. And I feel like you kind of already answered it partly, but when did you know your heart was safe with your husband now?
Um. All right. So I know my heart was safe from the initial stage when he said, "I'm here to add to you,
Mm,
not to." No, I'm not here to make you happy. I'm here to add to your happiness,
mm,
which is important for me,
mm-hmm,
and which we understood the assignment.
mm-hmm,
It's not a situation where we're gonna be in each other's life to make each other happy, because that's where I went wrong initially.
mm-hmm.
So it's the mere fact that we're coming together to add to each other's happiness. So my happiness is no longer dependent on him.
Wow.
So whether or not he makes me happy, my heart is safe.
Yeah. Thank you, friend. This has been so. I darn it want to cry. I'm serious. Like this is a really good conversation. This brings my heart so much joy because this is what it's about, and this is why I have created this podcast. Is for stories like this, your vulnerability. I don't think people realize like how having the courage to share your story, whether it's the good pieces or the bad, is so healing for other people. And I already know that this podcast is going to help heal so many people. So I just want to say thank you again for even doing that. And one question that I always ask women who have been cheated on is, what is life before infidelity?
We were infidelity.
Life before infidelity, yeah.
Good. Life before infidelity was very naive.
Mm, that's a good word. I like that. Naive.
I was very naive before infidelity. But after infidelity, I'm a better person.
Mm, I like that. I like that. Alrighty, well, you guys have heard it. We went through a lot. This has been a beautiful conversation. But yeah, Jay, just tell the people where they can connect with you, how they can connect with your podcast, and how they can find your book and all of that good stuff.
So you can connect with me on Instagram at the Unfiltered by Jade.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I am on all podcast platforms that you can find. I'm there.
Mm-hmm.
And you can find my book, Things Left Unsaid Before I Do, on Amazon.
Okay.
Yep.
All righty. Well, thank you again, beautiful people, for tuning in. I hope you got a lot of value from this conversation. My name is Brianna Latrice. I am your host of Life After Infidelity. If you want to reach me, you can find me on IG, TikTok at life underscore after underscore infidelity. Or you can reach me online at www.lifeafterinfidelity.net. If you're curious with working with me, you can click on the link on my um, in my website or even on my socials and schedule a free 15-minute coaching consultation, and I would love to see if we were a good fit. Until then, continue healing beautifully, and I will see you on the next episode. Bye bye.